Okay, then we start. Yeah, so this is case number one. We'll have two broad case discussions and then a few pictures for cross and microscopy. So, 65-year-old diabetic male presents to medicine emergency with chest pain radiating the left arm. He was sweating and shortness of breath for the last 40 minutes. An examination, BP was found to be a bit elevated. Pulse rate was definitely elevated, and ECG revealed ST elevation. Top T test was positive. Right. So based on this history, yeah, the based on this, uh, these findings, yeah. So ST elevation, can you hear me? Am I audible now? Hello? Okay. Okay. So next question would be, what is the spectrum for ischemic heart diseases? So first is angina. So angina where the infarction has not yet occurred. Next would be myocardial infarction. What else? Chalo, theek hai, we'll discuss it later. Then we'll have to discuss the risk factors. What are the two broad categories in which to divide the risk factors? Modifiable and non-modifiable. Okay, rest we'll discuss later. Okay, so just, yeah. So this is the spectrum for ischemic heart disease. We have angina pectoris in which infarction has not yet occurred. In that, we have three variants. The first one would be stable angina, which is quite common, and it is only when the patient is just not having any exertion, any physical exertion, then the patient does not feel any symptoms. But sometimes it can occur during exercise or some kind of even emotional excitement as well. So there, atherosclerosis has occurred of the coronary arteries, but the patient is still stable. So the narrowing is not enough to cause any amount of infarction. Second would be unstable or crescendo or pre-infarction angina. So here the patient, the atheroma has advanced further. The patient has increased amount of pain than the stable angina. And lastly, we have prince-metal angina, which even occurs at rest. Okay, so apart from that, we have got acute myocardial infarction, which we'll be predominantly discussing today. And there is sudden cardiac death, and then finally there is chronic ischemic heart disease, which is also known as heart failure. Okay, so coming to risk factors for ischemic heart disease. Now, it is extremely important. All these risk factors will also have to tell them in atherosclerosis as well. So what happens is you're generally shown a gross of atheroma or of an atheromatous plaque in the practical, and after that, risk factors is one of the main questions that you're asked. So you always have to divide them into modifiable and non-modifiable, right? So non-modifiables, ischemic heart disease and atherosclerosis, they are both seen more commonly in males. They're found to females are seen to be protected during the reproductive age group. Then the risk increases with increasing age, with the peak at 40 to 65 years. And patients also have a genetic predisposition. That is, patients who have a family history of IST are seen to be more prone to have IST. Lastly, we have hyperhomocystinemia. So there is an inborn error of metabolism, which is homocystinuria. So that is why it is non-modifiable, because it is inherited again. So in this, homocysteine levels are in the blood are more than 100 micromole per liter, and this also predisposes the patient to atherosclerosis, followed by. Next we have modifiable. So in modifiable, firstly we have hyperlipidemia. So can you tell me about what are the two types of cholesterol and which one of them are good or bad? Yeah, I'm asking about the two kinds of cholesterol and which one of them is supposed to be good for the person and bad for the person. Okay, so LDL and HDL. HDL is the good one, right? And LDL is bad. Okay. VLDL also is considered to be bad. The next modifiable risk factor would be hypertension. Then we have smoking, diabetes mellitus, lipoprotein A, and lastly, inflammation. So in inflammation, what you're supposed to remember is CRP. What's the full form of CRP? C-reactive protein. So new studies have found out that CRP or the levels of C-reactive protein can be used to prognosticate the patient as well. Patients who already have been diagnosed with IST, so then we can check the CRP levels from time to time, and based on the levels of CRP, the prognosis becomes good or bad. So increased levels of CRP are associated with a worse prognosis. Lastly, there is obviously smoking is another risk factor. Then there is diabetes mellitus, and lastly we have lipoprotein A. So what is lipoprotein A? I think there is a bit of lag here on. Okay, just wait a second. I'm just trying to change my change my network. I think I'm not getting your responses. Am I audible now? Okay, so lipoprotein A has been recently found to be an independent risk factor for ischemic heart disease. So it was first. Screen is not visible. क्या? What should I do? Both. Now it's done. Yeah, so I'll just start again. I'm so sorry about my network. Am I audible now? I think my screen is visible. Yeah, anyone? Am I audible now? नहीं हो Yeah, so can I start now? Okay. Again, I apologize for it. So coming to pathogenesis, so firstly, obviously, 90% of the cases, coronary atherosclerosis is the cause. However, there can be other causes for myocardial infarction as well. So whatever cause leads to ischemia in the myocardium leading to coagulative necrosis. Okay, you have to think of all those causes. So firstly, there would be obviously vasospasm without any atherosclerosis. Then emboli might have traveled to the coronary vasculature, causing blockage of the blood supply, leading to ischemia. Then there are some systemic disorders like vasculitis, hematologic disorders like sickle cell disease, vascular dissection, and lower systemic blood pressure, which happens in shock. So, so how does it form? How does it happen? So first of all, as you know, atherosclerotic plaque hota hai. So you must have read something like acute plaque change when reading about atherosclerosis. The same thing happens in myocardial infarction. So in acute plaque change, initially some form of erosion, ulceration, or rupture of the plaque would occur, which would have exposed the plaque. And the plaque is already thrombogenic. Thrombogenic means it is very prone to coagulation. So because of that, there is sudden thrombus formation. So after, like initially the plaque was there, already the lumen was smaller in size than normal. But after that, further thrombus formation occurs on the top of that, leading to complete occlusion of the lumen. So complete occlusion will lead to ischemia and necrosis. Apart from that, we can also have hemorrhage in the central core of the plaque, which will again cause increase in the plaque size and occlusion of the lumen. So how does it actually happen? So once thrombogenic subendothelial collagen has been exposed to platelets, so the platelets will come, they'll adhere to the site, there will be activation, aggregation, and microthrombi would be formed, leading to occlusion. Apart from that, there also occurs release of inflammatory mediators, and who release them, platelets, endothelial cells, as well as whatever inflammatory cells are there initially, will release mediators which will lead to vasospasm at the site of atheroma, leading to further narrowing of the lumen. After that, finally, the entire coagulation pathway gets activated. Like the primary clot had been formed because of platelets. Now the entire coagulation pathway gets activated, leading to secondary clot formation. Okay, so now coming to morphology. So as you all know, within 30 minutes, after 30 minutes, the injury gets irreversible, right? And before that, it is reversible. However, when we talk about gross and light microscopy, the injury is not visible to the naked eye. So the myocardium would appear absolutely normal. So here you can see, can you see my arrow? Like if I point it out, can you see my arrow? Okay, so here you can see the myocardial nucleus or the nucleus of the cell. In between these red colored things, these are RBCs in the capillaries. And here we have this wavy thing structure. This is the intracellular disc. I'm going. PPT is stuck, so I'm taking it here. Yeah, are the slides moving now? Acha, abhi I've come to morphology. Can you see the morphology slide? Okay, is the morphology slide visible now? So, so within 30 minutes, as I said, the injury would be reversible. So the myocardium, just 1 second. Ma'am, just 20 or 30 minutes first. The slide would look absolutely normal. Here you can see the wavy intercellular disc. This is the myocardium nucleus, this round structure. And here you can see the cells are a bit, the area is a bit reddish than the surrounding one. So this is because of RBCs, right? So within 30 minutes, there is no positive findings on gross and light microscopy. However, on electron microscopy, we can see the myofibrils have relaxed. There is a bit of glycogen loss, and mitochondrial swelling has started because obviously the necrosis has started to occur. Then 30 minutes to 4 hours, again, grossly we will see none of the signs. However, in light microscopy, waviness of fibers starts occurring at the border. Can anyone tell me why do the fibers start appearing wavy here? What causes waviness of the fibers? No, it is not due to loss of elasticity. So firstly, the waviness occurs at the border. So there is myocardial infarction, right? These are the cells or the fibers. So the cells on the border, they have died. Okay, but adjacent to them are fibers which are still alive or which are still viable. They are still contracting, right? Now these fibers are dead and the adjacent fibers are alive. So when they contract, they target them. They target the dead fibers. So that is why they look a bit wavy because they have been tugged by the viable contracting fibers. Here, within 4 hours, between 30 minutes and 4 hours on electron microscopy, we'll see sarcolemmal disruption. and amorphous densities will start appearing in the mitochondria. Next, in between 4 to 12 hours, finally the gross findings start occurring and will get dark mottling on gross. They are basically the areas where infarction has occurred, and like microscopy, early coagulated necrosis starts occurring along with edema and hemorrhage. In between 12 to 24 hours, dark mottling has settled in. It is like properly there, and it is contiguous in the entire infarct area. In light microscopy, we'll get progression of coagulated necrosis. The nuclei they start appearing pyknotic. So here you can see in the previous slide, in the slide in which we had normal morphology, there we could see the blue colored nuclei, right? But here we not see any kind of nuclei. So it is all pinkish. It is all looking a bit amorphous. There is increased eosinophilia and getting necrosed at the margin. And in 24 hours, neutrophilic infiltrate starts appearing. Here we have the next slide. In between 1 to 3 days, on gross, we'll start getting an infarct center, which is like paler in color, which is yellow tan in color, and there will be mottling. On light microscopy, here from 1 to 3 days, we'll have neutrophilic infiltration. Here you can make out there is neutrophil, and these are all contraction bands, due to which they look a bit striated, right? After that, from 3 to 7 days, the border it starts appearing a bit hyperemic, and the central area softens because of necrosis, and it is again yellow to tan in color. In microscopy, we'll have even the neutrophils that start getting cleared away by the macrophages. So within 3 days, we had neutrophilic infiltration, and between 3 to 7 days, the macrophages they come and they start clearing out the neutrophils. This is very much similar as to what you see in normal wound healing. Then between 7 to 10 days, the phagocytosis has further progressed and granulation tissue starts appearing at the margin, right? And then finally, between 2 to 8 weeks, we have a scar formation. And light microscopy, what do we see in scars? The scar would be paler in color, there would be increased collagen deposition and decreased cellularity. So here you can make out, I'm sorry, I think the picture has been inverted. Here it is saying scar, and here the myocytes are live. So this is all live area. This is the blood vessel. Even you can see the nuclei here. So this is all viable area. These are live myocytes. And here, this paler looking area, it is due to fibroblastic proliferation. Here there is scarring. So the scarring has occurred. Okay, so can you tell me about some of the cardiac biomarkers and the biomarkers which appears the earliest? CKMB is the earliest, yes, and it is the most sensitive and the specific one, yeah. But is there any biomarker that occurs even before that? Okay, somebody has answered troponin, and before troponin, the one that has become kind of obsolete, that is not entirely specific. So myoglobin, yeah, myoglobin is the biomarker which occurs even before troponin, right? CRP is not actually considered a cardiac biomarker, it is a prognostic marker and it denotes inflammation. Okay, but when we talk about cardiac biomarkers, there is troponin, there is myoglobin, but it is almost obsolete, and lastly there is CKMB. So what are the three kinds of CK, and which is the one we use for heart or cardiac injury? Yeah, so there is CKMM, BB, and MB. MM is the one for muscle, BB is entirely for brain, and MB is MB entirely specific to heart, or it can be elevated in something else as well? MB हार्ट के अलावा किसी और इंजरी में भी माइनरी एलिवेट हो सकता है क्या? So CKMB is also found in skeletal muscle. So it can also be increased in skeletal muscle injury. So even though it is very sensitive, but it is not that specific, right? Okay. So coming to investigations, now this is extremely important because we need to know how do they start, why do we get elevated levels of all these things and why and how. So initially myocardial infarction has occurred, so tissue necrosis will be there along with inflammation. So amongst the inflammatory cytokines, there will be increased C-reactive protein, and because there is stimulation of neutrophil and monocyte migration, we get increased WBC count. So this you should remember because obviously while sitting in the viva, this is the one thing that you're asked. CBC findings क्या होती हैं? So after that, 2 to 4 hours after MI, so troponin is the first to appear, right? It is sensitive and most specific for myocardial necrosis. After that, and in that we have TROP-T and TROP-I. Both are the cardiac kinds only. So most sensitive and most specific is troponin, and it is it starts getting elevated at 2 hours, and CKMB starts getting elevated at 3 to 8 hours. However, CKMB is the first one to come to normal level. So it starts getting elevated at 3 hours and it comes to normal within 3 days. And as in troponin, it starts getting elevated at 2 hours and it gets normalized within 2 weeks, right? And apart from that, we have some newer biomarkers. So does anyone know any newer biomarkers? They have not been standardized yet, but they're still in research. Any new biomarker that you're aware of? Okay. So this is another table for you to go through. This simply tells us the timing of all the biomarkers. So as you can see, myoglobin appears before CKMB. Sorry, I think yeah. So these are the newer biomarkers. So firstly, we have glycogen phosphorylase BB. Okay, LDH is obsolete again. So LDH is not new. It is actually old and we don't use it anymore. So we have glycogen phosphorylase BB. We have ischemic modified albumin. We have pregnancy associated plasma protein A. And lastly, heart type fatty acid binding protein. So now this fourth marker is very, very important because it is seen to be elevated at even at 30 minutes, right? And it shows more sensitivity than myoglobin and troponin even at 2 hours. So it is still in research. We have yet to standardize it, but once it is standardized, it will become the most sensitive one. So the problem with troponin, T was even though it rises within 2 hours, but it gets back to normal within 2 weeks. So it takes a lot of time to come back to normal. However, heart type fatty acid binding protein, it comes to normal within 24 to 30 hours. And peak उन दोनों का 24 hours से होता है, इसका peak is at 6 to 8 hours. So it is still being researched and it is coming across as the most sensitive biomarker. Yeah, so this is another table for you to just summarize all the markers. Right. Okay, so then we have case 2, a 65-year-old male with history of smoking 10 to 15 cigarettes per day for the last 10 years. He developed sudden onset numbness in the left half of the body with blurring of speech and headache. Okay, so what is the provisional diagnosis in this case? So it is a stroke. So stroke clinical term hai. In broader category, it is a cerebrovascular accident, right? So what are the two kinds of infarcts that you can see in the brain and the mechanism behind them? So when we say infarct, we already assume that it is because of loss of blood supply. We already assume that it will be with what kind of necrosis and infarct will be there? Yeah, so the two broad infarcts are hemorrhagic or ischemic, and no liquefaction necrosis does not occur in infarct. Infarct means loss of blood supply. So simply if there has been loss of blood supply, and this leads to coagulative necrosis. Liquefaction necrosis occurs more in cases of infection. So coagulative necrosis में क्या होता है? There is loss of blood supply. So the the blood supply has stopped to the cells as well as to the degrading proteins of the lysosome. So lysosomal degradation already हो चुका है. The enzymes they also stop functioning, right? So even if the enzymes have stopped functioning, then they cannot degrade the cell. So cell boundary is still maintained, the tissue boundary is still maintained. However, the cell has stopped functioning. So this is cognitive necrosis. So is it clear why ischemia leads to cognitive necrosis? Do you have any doubt? Okay. So when you talk about the two kinds of infarct, so first is ischemic infarct and the second one is hemorrhagic infarct, right? So what is the difference between the two? So ischemic infarct would simply occur because of cardiovascular arteries or ischemia. So initially, all the infarcts would be ischemic or non-hemorrhagic. So the cells will simply get ischemic kind of necrosis. However, sometimes at the border of the infarct, where the cells have some kind of blood supply, and then reperfusion occurs, then we get hemorrhagic kind of infarct. So in hemorrhagic, the microscopy is same as normal ischemic infarct, but we'll get a background of RBC. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people are messaging कि brain infarct में liquefactive होता है. That is also true. You read it in Jellusat, but like broadly when we ask infarct क्या होता है और ischemia की वजह से क्या होता है, so it is coagulated. But brain tissue में already the tissue is so loose, right? Already जो borders होते हैं वो उतने clear नहीं होते, so that is why we say कि liquefactive होते हैं. But it doesn't mean कि उसमें हमेशा infection होगा, right? So lastly, name some organs which have white infarct. In organs, liver and arterial supply like kidney, heart, and muscle. Okay. Difference in microscopy we've already discussed, and I think type of necrosis I don't need to tell you. Okay, and yeah. So can you identify the site? What is it showing? So this is just a scanner view, right? So what do you think? Yeah. Okay, so what if I told you that this is a slide of a placenta? Now, can you identify the pathology? Okay, yeah. So this is again showing infarct or coagulative necrosis in a slide of placenta. So like these are all supposed to be villi, right? These round structures. And you cannot see any blue areas or any nuclei. The nuclear degeneration has occurred. However, we can broadly see the outlines of all the villi or the entire tissue. So that is why this is a slide of coagulative necrosis. So now I put the next slide I put is that of a live placenta, so that you can see the difference between a live placenta and a placenta with infarct. So here you can see this is all a bit bluer. Nuclei are all there, right? These are blood vessels and the rest are all villi. Okay, so coming on to higher part, here. So here you can make out here this is the wall of the villi and the wall has no nuclei, right? Or to be beat with all these red cells, these are all RBCs due to congestion. Okay, so this is how coagulative necrosis looks like. And here this is a slide of normal viable placenta. You can make out यहाँ पे all these bluer areas, these are the nuclei which are not present in this slide. Okay, so is it clear? This is one of the slides that you might get in the exam in Parker Center. So should I move ahead? Okay. So this was in Parker Center or cooperative necrosis. Yeah. So yeah. So this is again 4x. This is the next case. So what do you see here? So firstly, by looking at the slide, you should always look at 4x, right? This is the scanner view. Scanner view means you're probably supposed to see the pattern, yeah. So this is the blood vessel. Okay. So this looks like muscle. So this is the media. So what is happening here? Can someone make out? Okay. So let me just zoom it over. Yeah. So can you see it here? There are some slit-like spaces, right? So this entire area is pale. Here we will see some fibroblastic proliferation. Yeah. So this is atheroma. These are cholesterol clefts because of atherosclerosis. Yeah. So next, so here is another picture or the zoomed in version of the same case. Yeah. So these cholesterol clefts are because the cholesterol or the lipid, it does not take up steam. It does not take up HCl during processing, and it simply gets washed off. So washing off of it leads to clearing of the spaces, which look like slit-like spaces. So you don't even need to go to 40x in order to diagnose it. Even 4x and 10x are enough. Okay, abhi you're just looking at pictures in the computer. It is easier, but वहाँ पे जाकर while focusing the slide, you should know how to focus the slide and where all to scan for. Okay. Now there's this picture. Yeah. So what is the parent tissue and what is the pathology? Okay, so it is a big muscular artery, right? And what are the pointers for suggesting that it is an artery? So here you can see these little ostia of microvasculature. Okay. तो thick wall है also इसमें हमेशा microvasculature जो इसमें से बाहर निकल रहा होता है sprouts or the branches that are there, you can see tiny holes there. Like maybe if I can zoom the slide, like this one, this one, this one. And so what do you think is the pathology? So this brown or the gray brown color is supposed to be the normal one. What is happening here? Yeah, so these are fatty streaks. This area looks a bit yellow, fatty. So these are fatty streaks. This is another picture where the fatty streaks are more clearly visible, right? So these yellow areas, these are all due to deposition of lipid and cholesterol or fatty streaks. Okay. Yeah, so this was fatty streaks of atherosclerosis. This is a very important gross. You should all be familiar with it and you should all be familiar with the questions that are asked with it. Right. So the first question would be started with atherosclerosis, which we've already discussed. Second is progression of an atherosclerotic lesion. So how does it start? सबसे initially क्या होता है? हेलो, मैम मेरी क्लास चल रही है, टेकिंग अ क्लास. हाँ, ठीक है मैम. Yeah, so even before fatty streak, endothelial damage is at a microscopic level, but macroscopically, if we see, focally lipid deposition is there, which they all then conjoin together to form a fatty streak, which might be a thin line, and lastly, that leads to an atheromatous plaque. So, what are the components of atheromatous plaque? Like how does the plaque develop? That you must have been taught in the lecture, right? So, I'm not going into detail of that. So, what are the three components that you're supposed to look in an atheromatous plaque? Yeah. Three components होते हैं ना plaque के structure के. So what are those? Yeah. So there is a cap, there is a core, and there is a shoulder. So what is the cap made of? The cap is made of collagen fibers as well as some amount of muscle proliferation as well, smooth muscle proliferation as well. So this is basically a fibrous cap. The shoulder you cannot see in this case because this is a case of an old atheroma. जो shoulder होता है that is cellular. So वहाँ पे you can get inflammatory cells as well, right? So it is found to be in the adjoining area between the cap and the core. And lastly, this is the core. And, what do you get in the core? What do you get in the core? So yeah, you'll have necrosis, you'll have cholesterol, and you can also have macrophages that have engulfed lipids, right, leading to foamy macrophages. Okay. Lastly, what is the sequel of atheromatous plaque, or what are the complications of the atheromatous plaque? हमने initially पढ़ा था ना what all can happen to the plaque. Okay, so there can be rupture, there can be ulceration, there can be again embolization, and calcification can also occur, right? Yeah, so in which layer of the artery does the plaque occur? Plaque कौन सी layer में होता है? Intima or media? Yeah, so it occurs in intima. You have to remember it because I don't know, a lot of people answer कि media में होता है by the time you come to the viva. But you must remember कि intima में होता है, even though it can have smooth muscle proliferation. Okay, so coming over to the next case. So again, this is a 4x or the scanner view of the slide. So what do you see here? If you cannot tell the diagnosis, you can attempt to explain it कि क्या दिख रहा है. Okay, so there are some brown deposits, right, which might be blood, right? This is how blood or RBCs appear. So these appear to be congested areas. So, okay, there is hemorrhage, there is congestion. Okay, so now can you make out wherever there are, yeah, so scanner view, I think, okay, don't go to heart failure. We are not going to the overall diagnosis. यहाँ पे कुछ भी heart related issue नहीं दिख रहा है, right? So yeah, so on this, on 4x, all you can see is that there is congestion. There are some RBCs here, here, here. There is hemorrhage going on, and there are some open areas. So let's just see what are the areas lined off. So this is another part. So now you can make out these areas do have a lining, right? They're all lined by nuclei. So these are not just open spaces which are which are filled with blood. These are what? अगर ये lined है तो ये क्या हो गए? Okay, spaces lined by flattened cells or flattened endothelium. These are vessels. What kind of vessels? These are capillaries, right? These are all proliferating capillary channels which are interconnecting. Okay, so all this hemorrhage is because of them. Okay. Lastly, 40x focus. Now you can make it out more clearly, right? Okay, so you can make out that all these spaces they're filled with blood. They're all congested. They're proliferating because if you're not seeing anything else in the slide, there is no parent tissue, right? So what if I told you that this was the lesion? What does this lesion have? It has anastomosing and interconnecting capillary spaces which are filled with blood. So what do you think will be the diagnosis? A proliferative lesion of blood vessels. Okay, benign proliferation of blood vessels. What does it lead to? It's a hemangioma. Yeah. Okay, so this will what hemangioma look like in 4x. Then there is 10x, and then there is 40x. Okay, so even 4x can give an idea at what you're looking at. Okay, so what are the two kinds of hemangiomas? So there is capillary hemangioma and cavernous hemangioma. तो कैपिलरी हेमांजियोमा में स्मॉल कैपिलरीज होती हैं, cavernous is more vascular, it has more risk of hemorrhage, and there are the channels are more interconnecting between them. So this is a slide of cavernous hemangioma instead of a capillary hemangioma. Okay, because जो capillary hemangioma होता है उसकी vessel lining is lined by plump endothelial cells. So these cells that you're looking at, they become thicker. Right. Lastly, what is pyogenic granuloma? Or is pyogenic granuloma a true granuloma? Again, this you're asked in the Viva whenever you're given a slide of granuloma. Yeah, so pyogenic granuloma is actually not a true granuloma. It is actually lobular capillary hemangioma. It is simply another name for lobular capillary hemangioma. Now, the difference between lobular capillary hemangioma and normal hemangioma is lobular capillary hemangioma is less congested. So the vessels that we're getting, those capillaries, they are all smaller. There is no interconnection between them, and they are found in lobules, as the name suggests. Okay, so ये याद रखना है that pyogenic granuloma is actually lobular capillary hemangioma. Okay, coming over to the last case. Yeah. So what do you see here? Like not diagnosis, but anything that you're seeing here. Yeah. So okay, so we are getting arteries which are lined by thick walls, right? What if I told you that ये वाला part pathology नहीं है? This is actually normal. These are actually normal muscular arteries. Okay. And what are you looking at here? Yeah, here. So what are these? So let me just take you at 10. Yeah. So again, this is a group of muscular arteries, right? So is something happening to these arteries? Arteriosclerosis, what kind? Hyalin तो नहीं है ये. These are normal muscular arteries. When I come to 4x, maybe you can appreciate the muscle layer. This is normal smooth muscle layer. So ये normal muscular arteries हैं. Can you make out if anything is happening here and here in these two arteries? Yeah. So this is medial calcification. This blue area, this intense blue-looking area, this is because of calcification. Calcium seen blue with HNE, right? Yeah. So coming on to the 48. So can you make it out clearly now? This is a vessel, intima, this is the media, and lastly we have adventitia. And in the medial layer, in between the smooth muscle, we have granular dark blue deposits. So these are due to calcium, right? So this is actually medial calcification, and the other name for medial calcification is yeah. So it is Monckeberg arteriosclerosis. That is why when you're seeing arteriosclerosis, I was asking you what kind. So Hyalin wala nahi hai ye. Again, this is an exam slide. The medial sclerosis is so, the medial calcification is so striking hota hai that this is given as a spotter in the exam. Okay. Now here you have seen both the type of vessels. Capillary hemangioma you saw thin lined capillaries Okay, and here you can see thick muscular arteries. Now these muscular walls, these are normal. This you have to remember. Okay, and this is calcification. Okay, lastly, what is the parent tissue? Yeah, so the parent tissue that we have here for this is uterus, particularly myometrium. These are all smooth muscle fibers. Okay, the picture is a bit hazy here and इसमें zoom out नहीं कर पा रही हूँ, but like all these are all smooth muscle fibers. Here you can make it out. ये सारे ऐसे spindled out जो cells है, these are all smooth muscles. So this is actually myometrium of the uterus. So muscular arteries are normally found in myometrium of the uterus. What are the causes for medial calcification? General pathology, you must have read calcification mainly दो तरह का होता है. One is dystrophic and the other one is metastatic. So medial calcification is a kind of which calcification? Yeah, so it is dystrophic kind of calcification. It occurs as a result of aging, hypertension, and sometimes in patients of diabetes mellitus. Lastly, what are the special stains for calcium? Von Cosa. And are you aware of another stain? There is one more. Alzarine red. Yeah. Okay, so somebody has asked the difference between capillary and cavernous hemangioma. So in capillary hemangioma, you'll simply get proliferation of capillaries. Small capillary spaces will be there, which will not be interconnecting. There will be just capillary proliferation. And if they are found in lobules lined by fibrous septa, then we call them lobular capillary hemangioma. In case of cavernous hemangioma, the spaces are much more larger and the vessel wall lining is flatter, the one that you saw. तो cavernous में interconnecting vessels होती हैं, capillary में interconnect नहीं होती. Capillary ones are lined by plump endothelium, cavernous ones are lined by flattened endothelium. Right. So, any other questions you might have to reach the end of the discussion? Or if you want to see another slide. Yeah, any questions? Or you're done? If you want to see all the slides again? Okay. Yeah, so this was a first case. Okay, so this is live placental tissue, right? This is more bluer with nuclei, and this is the tissue with coagulative necrosis. And there's this slide with higher part of the seam. So here you can make out these boundaries of the villi. They have no nuclei. And यहाँ पे you can make out individual nuclei. So this is coagulative in part, and this is normal placental villi. Okay, then the next case. This is vessel wall with the lipid core. This is 10x of the same. Okay, then hemangioma. No, this one. Yeah. So here you can see कि distinct capillaries नहीं है. They all appear to be interconnecting. Okay, and vessel wall lining will appreciate it in higher parts. Okay, so the spaces are very large. Capillary, normal capillary hemangioma में इतने large spaces नहीं होते हैं. Okay. Here you can appreciate the vessel lining. These are all flattened endothelial lining है इसमें सब में. This is why these are capillaries, right? Just a single flattened endothelial lining you can see. Here you can see थोड़ा बहुत interconnection हो रहा है in between the spaces. Okay, last case, this is the last case. This is very easy once you learn to spot it in the microscope. And while looking in the microscope, जब भी तुम लोग देखोगे, eventually you should never jump on to spotty it initially. सबसे पहले it is always good to screen it in forehead. Okay, so slide number 17. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize about the network issue. I'll just try it doesn't happen again.